Hi, my name is Steven and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about productive breaks, tips on optimizing your short breaks. The speed at which modern day life comes at us is quite astounding if you really think about it. Blink and you might miss out on something important in the world. In this chaos, it is critical now more than ever to take breaks whenever you can, to give our minds and body pause before we move on to the next thing. If we don't, we might suffer the consequences of burnout due to chronic stress. So taking a productive break has been key for me to remain productive during these difficult times. And also these breaks help me to bounce back in times of high stress. And before you say you don't have time for this, there are ways to maximize your breaks so you get the most out of them, so that you're able to come back fresh and ready to go and tackle on the next new thing. Here are some ways to make your breaks productive. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about my background, my tips on having a productive break, and my general thoughts on this. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, hit that notification bell if you like this content. And here we go. In my 20s, I wanted to get a lot of things done, so I ran at a high stress level all the time. People always told me to take a break. I certainly had a lot of energy back then, and I could sustain the high output that I was putting out into the world. Unfortunately, things started changing as I gotten older. I no longer could sustain the high rate of output. I started to slow down in my 30s, and I needed my mind and body to take rest from time to time, especially during really stressful and high demanding times in my life. But here's the thing, I really didn't take my breaks properly. I was still tired and stressed even after I had the break. I realized that even though I was taking a lot of time off, I wasn't using that time efficiently, and that the things that I was doing wasn't helping me to truly relax and unwind from the stress. You see, in order to relax and fully optimize your breaks, you need to fully commit to taking a break and resist the urge to do more work during that break. This could be in the form of planning or even thinking about work that you still need to do. You need to be able to disengage from all of that and just rest, and not worry about solving problems in different areas of your life. You just need time for relaxation. Once you're able to let that work go, then you could spend more time and optimize your breaks so that you come back better, stronger, and well rested. So let's see how you can maximize your breaks. So here are my tips on how to have a more productive break. Number 1, changing your scenery. The easiest way to start a more productive break is to change your scenery or the environment that you're currently in. For example, if you're in an office, go outside to nature. Or if you're in your room, go outside to the backyard. The key is to change the location that you're currently in so you disengage from the work aspect of your mind. Because it's harder to have a more productive break, especially if you're in the same environment that's causing you stress in the first place. When I first started to take breaks in an office type setting, I would just sit at my office and go on the phone and scroll around. I didn't realize that didn't really help me with my breaks at all. And it didn't give me the rest and relaxation that I really needed to get my mind away from work. I needed to get up and out of that office and go for a walk somewhere to truly take in the break. This allowed both my mind and my body to shift away from work. So for really short breaks, I would just get up, move around, and then come back to the office. For longer breaks, I would recommend going to the park or somewhere in nature. So changing your environment is one of the easiest ways to make your breaks more productive because it shifts your mind away from work. Number 2, breathe deep. Sometimes the simplest things is the one that's really hard to do in practice, and that's simply to breathe deep. Focusing on your breathing during breaks can work wonders for your mind and your body. It allows your body to take in that sweet oxygen and provide it to the rest of your blood cells. And in times of stress, it also helps you to slow down and calm the mind. Deliberate breathing provides you the ability to focus your mind on something else besides work and stress. And the rhythmic nature of breathing can help you rest and relax more efficiently. I had no idea how effective breathing can be before I started yoga, and it really helped me to put in practice breathing during my relaxation times, so that I'm only focusing in on the breath in and breath out of my lungs and nothing else. You might not notice this, but we don't regularly breathe deeply without focus. We usually breathe in shallowly. And that shallowness reduces the oxygen that we get overall, and it can fatigue us and makes us tired. So breathing slowly and deeply can not only calm you in a stressful environment and make your breaks more productive, but also can alleviate the stress and anxiety as well. Number 3, resist the urge. We've all done this, but when you go on your break, try really hard not to think about work or try to plan or solve something. Truly try to break away from whatever you're thinking while you're on your break. This can be very simple to say, but in practice it can be really hard to actually disengage from that. The reason is when you're thinking about work, your mind never really has a chance to break away from it and think about something else. It's still trying to plan something or solve a previous problem that you might have had. And this causes you not to fully break away from work while you're on your break. So if you need help, try to think about something that is less stressful in your life. And then once you thought about it, move on to something less stressful than that. And in this way, you can slowly move away from your mind thinking about your primary thing, which is work. If you have a really short break, I would just strike up a conversation with a coworker or a friend during that time. This way, the conversation itself can disengage you from the work that you're thinking about. And for longer breaks, I would use the method of thinking about less and less stressful things in your life until you no longer think about work. And knowing that my break time will truly start when I'm no longer thinking about anything and my mind is clear. So to have an optimized break, you have to resist the urge to think about work, and your mind must be clear during that time. So ultimately, you can come back to work with a refreshed mindset. Number 4, zone out. Once you're able to quiet your mind and not think about anything related to work, that's the time where you need to zone out completely. In other words, your mind is not actively thinking about anything and it's just observing whatever is around you. Or put it in another way, this is being present in your environment, in which you're passively observing whatever is around you, but you're not actively thinking about any one particular thing. Your mind is clear, and this is when the magic happens. You are actually resting and relaxing during this time. When your mind is active and engaged, it's using precious resources. It's no longer resting or relaxing. So when this is happening, it doesn't feel like you're actually taking a rest. Your mind is still engaged on something. But when it isn't, your mind just exists. It is just taking in with no active thinking at all. So when you zone out, it feels like you're really present in whatever environment you're in and you notice everything around you. And depending on how often you're able to zone out, it can be incredibly easy or very hard for you to do. Because it does take a little bit of conditioning and training to quiet our minds so that we're not actively thinking about any one thing. With more experience, you're able to reach the zoned out state much more quickly and efficiently. So as a beginner, one of my tips is to try to sit in a dark room and not think about anything and see how long you can hold that for. Because it's much easier to not think about things if you're in a pitch black environment where there's no stimulus at all. Or another strategy is to spend a lot of time by yourself so that your mind runs out of things that it thinks about. Because in a lot of cases, we have a lot of things in our lives that we haven't properly processed, and we can only do that while we're by ourselves. But bear in mind that can take a lot of alone time depending on how many things that you need to process in your life. So for really short breaks, you might not be able to zone out completely during your break. Do your best to close your eyes, breathe deep, and just take in the environment. And for longer breaks, I recommend you try to reach that zoned out state, whatever that might be for you. So the ability to zone out and be present in your body is one of the key tips to maximizing your breaks and making it productive. In this state, you're truly able to allow your body and mind to rest and relax. And the longer you're able to maintain that, the more restorative the effects will be. And lastly, number 5, don't rush back. As we finish our breaks, the temptation is always there to rush back to our work. Don't do this. Because if you try to rush back immediately and think about work, you might just undo all that hard work into rest and relaxation. Because as we start to worry about going back to work and thinking about work, we raise our stress and anxiety about it. This can undo all the work going into calming yourself down in the first place. Looking at it in another way, if you didn't have a productive or efficient break, you're right back where you started. And you didn't really mitigate any of that stress and anxiety during that break. I do recognize that not everyone has the luxury to meander or come back late from a break. And for those people who do have time coming back from their breaks, try your best to slowly ramp up. So for short breaks, you can again try to not go very far and just closing your eyes and breathing deep while meditating. Or for longer breaks, after you realize that you need to go back to work, try to give yourself 5 to 10 minutes still zoned out before you actively move your muscles and get going. When you're in this 5 to 10 minutes transition stage, take small steps to try to condition your mind back to work. So overall, don't rush back to work, especially from a break, or else you might lose that restorative effort that you put into it in the first place. So here are some of my thoughts on productive breaks. It is really important to schedule breaks throughout your day, no matter how busy you are. It is the key to sustaining productivity in the long run and avoid burnout. This is especially true as you age. In my 20s, I was able to do whatever I want when I want and not fear burnout. But in my early 30s, I started to slow down and I couldn't avoid not taking a break, or else it would hurt my productivity. Now I put a few breaks throughout my day and they act like a buffer zone in between large amounts of work. This allows me to keep my hectic schedule in place and not dip in my productivity. So I definitely would recommend, regardless of your age, to try to put in productive breaks whenever possible into your schedule. Because this in the long run can help you avoid or mitigate stress and chronic burnout. So those are my tips on how to have an optimized and productive break. It may seem like breaks in this modern fast-paced world are inefficient to have, but it's quite the opposite. Our minds and our bodies are not computers or robots. And from time to time, we must take breaks, or else our mind and our bodies might fall apart. But there are ways to maximize our breaks so that we gain the most out of it during this rest and relaxation period. So the keys to optimizing your break is to change your scenery, breathe deep, and zone out whenever you can. Then you'll be able to get back to work ready and rested for round 2. So thank you for watching. Please leave me a comment down below on what is your favorite way to relax and why would you recommend it. And I'll see you next time.